Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. China is a kingdom with a feudal system that boasts a history and culture spanning 5,000 years. The emperor's power was supreme, sacred, and inviolable. The empress was the mistress of 3,000 beautiful concubines, supposedly endowed with immense power and the highest honor. However, there was one empress who lived in turbulent times, enduring a lonely existence and ultimately became a victim of history. On December 1, 1922, the last emperor, Puyi, held a grand wedding in the Forbidden City. Unlike the emperors of the Qing Dynasty before him, Puyi's marriage was unconventional. He had only one empress and one concubine, Yongzheng and Wenxiu. At that time, Puyi's wife could still be referred to as Empress and concubine due to the provisions of the retirement and preferential treatment of the Qing emperor. Puyi was allowed to maintain his own small court within the Forbidden City, following all the rituals and titles of the old Qing Dynasty. Even the scale of Puyi's wedding was based on that of Emperor Tongji. A decade had passed since the fall of the Qing Dynasty. Inside and outside the Forbidden City, there were two different worlds. Puyi's small court's only income was the 4 million taels of silver promised annually in the preferential treatment conditions. This sum was entirely inadequate to cover the expenses of the numerous people in the Forbidden City. Puyi's wedding followed the style of Emperor Tongji's because it was the least costly option among all previous imperial weddings. After the marriage, Puyi, Yongzheng, and Wenxiu experienced a brief honeymoon period. However, the emotional entanglements among the three made the already fragile marital bond even more devoid of any affection. In Puyi's own words, "None of them are my wives. I only have decorations, solutions to different problems." As is well known, eunuchs played an indispensable role in the palace and symbolized ancient Chinese feudal society. For ordinary people, becoming a eunuch meant losing one's complete physical integrity, considered unfilial. However, for Sun Yaoting, it seemed to be his only chance to change his fate. Born into a poor rural family, he had no choice but to undergo the eunuch operation. Despite the rudimentary conditions, the consequences of the surgery caused Sun Yaoting to have a high fever for 3 days. Just when he thought he could enter the palace to work, news of the Qing dynasty's overthrow and the emperor's abdication left him in anxious anticipation. Fate, however, eventually favored him. The palace began recruiting eunuchs again, and Sun Yaoting finally entered the palace as he had wished. Initially, in the palace, Sun Yaoting could only serve tea, clean, and perform other miscellaneous tasks. He had almost no chance to meet the nobility of the palace. However, due to his intelligence and cleverness, he was noticed by Empress Dowager Jingkong and recommended to serve her. Several years later, his cleverness endeared him to Empress Yongzheng, leading to multiple promotions, and he entered Empress Yongzheng's residence to serve her personally. Years after leaving the palace, at the age of 94, Sun Yaoting talked about his life in the palace, revealing many palace secrets unknown to the public. According to Sun Yaoting, every move and word in the palace had to adhere strictly to rules. When the empress washed her hands, a eunuch had to kneel down and present the water basin to her. When the empress smoked, a eunuch had to kneel on the ground and pass the cigarette to her. The empress and concubines had high demands when it came to bathing. They had to bathe several times a day. The water quality, temperature, types, and amounts of fragrances, as well as the strength of scrubbing, were strictly regulated and could not have any mistakes. What was more surprising was that during their baths, the empress and concubines didn't do anything themselves. The palace maids assisted them throughout the entire process, from changing clothes to showering to dressing again. All of this reflected the strong feudal hierarchical system. According to Sun Yaoting, Empress Yongzheng had a peculiar habit during her baths. After bathing, she would suddenly become aware of her naked body, sit in the basin, scrutinize herself, and then put on clothes before leaving. This behavior became a topic of discussion among the palace maids. Some said she loved herself, while others said she was just a pitiful person caring for herself. This was because most of the palace maids and eunuchs knew that Emperor Puyi rarely visited Empress Wanrong's residence. Even when he did, he would hurriedly leave. They didn't have a normal marital relationship. In Sun Yaoting's description, although Wanrong was the empress, she seldom displayed the demeanor of an empress. She always spoke softly when talking to the palace maids and eunuchs. Previous empresses used to have many palace maids and eunuchs around when they slept at night. Wanrong only left eunuchs in her chambers at night, allowing other palace maids and eunuchs to sleep. During sleep, Wanrong never closed her door. According to Sun Yaoting, Empress Wanrong couldn't obtain Emperor Puyi's favor, and they had no children. In the quiet nights, she guarded an empty room, sleeping with the door open to alleviate her loneliness. However, talking to palace maids and eunuchs also couldn't dispel her boredom. In the 13th year of the Republic of China, Feng Yuxiang staged a coup, expelling Puyi from the palace. Sun Yaoting also left the palace with them. Lost, Puyi arrived in the puppet state of Manchukuo and became emperor once again. During that time, Wanrong and the bodyguard had a daughter. However, this child was not tolerated. Shortly after her birth, Puyi burned her to death. To preserve the royal family's honor, this secret was tightly kept. Unable to find the man Wanrong had an affair with, Puyi executed all the suspected men. Upon learning of her daughter's death, Wanrong suffered a great blow. She became addicted to opium, leading a dark life akin to a madwoman. Thus, Wanrong's life was tragic, but she had no choice but to bow down to fate. In his later years, this last eunuch in China shared the palace's stories generously, providing us with a detailed account of these unknown palace secrets. Sun Yaoting's palace life might not have been as prominent as Zhao Gao or Wei Zhongxian, but his story is filled with incredible details and the complexity of human nature. This last eunuch witnessed historical changes and the palace's joys and sorrows, becoming a unique witness to history. This is History and Culture channel. Like and subscribe are the biggest help and support for us. Thank you everyone. See you next time.